Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice. You heard about our new program called Profitability Under Pressure. Hey, this is Chad with Breakthrough, and I want to personally invite you to join our new course as a listener of the Grow Your Practice podcast. I'm assuming that you're a practice owner and you are under pressure because of inflation, because of declining reimbursements or decreased willingness to pay. If you're a cash-based practice, this program is perfect for you. So applications for our next group close on March 21st. And in the program, we're going to take a look at your unique practice and show you 11 ways where you can improve your profit margins, the margin of safety for your practice. We've had over 60 owners complete the course so far and wanted to share a few highlights from owners and what they've implemented, put into action in their own practice. Ken, one owner, was able to negotiate a better insurance rate with, let's call it Insurance Company A. Lance, the practice owner in Arkansas, completed one exercise called the Profit Leak Audit, which is one of the first things we teach in the program. And that the end result of just doing that one exercise was worth $1.3 million in this year, 2024, to his practice. Another owner, Lisa, was able to reactivate 40 past patients with just a single text message. So no matter if your practice is large or small, if you're looking to improve profitability, this program can help you grow. In the end, have a greater margin of safety for your practice. Make sure you sign up by March 21st. Go to getbreakthrough.com/apply. That's getbreakthrough.com/apply. Now back to our show. Hey everybody, Chad Madden here with the Grow Your Practice podcast. And today we have two very special guests for you. I know you're going to love this. Tony and Melissa Cere with Kinetix PT in Gainesville, Florida. Welcome to the podcast here, Tony and Melissa.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great. So you're both physical therapists.
Yes.
Let's start with the obvious question. How and when did you decide to become a physical therapist?
You want to start?
Mine started pretty early on, like early high school, I think. My younger sister was diagnosed with hydrocephalus when she was 10, which is highly unusual to be that old when you're diagnosed. And she went through probably 6 or 7 neurosurgeries. And during that process, pretty much had to relearn everything. Was in pretty intense PT and OT for about a year and a half after her surgeries were completed. And so I would go to her rehab sessions a lot with her. And I was just fascinated with what all they were doing with her and how they could take someone who literally couldn't sit up on their own out of bed and got them back to walking and feeding themselves and, everything a 10 or 11-year-old girl should be doing. So that's really what kind of piqued my interest. And what I've also really appreciated from that experience was the relationship that my sister built with her therapist. This happened when my sister was 10 or 11. She's now 43, and she still keeps in touch with her OT.
Wow.
Literally, they just saw each other when my sister was visiting back in Ohio recently. So I think being able to see that impact and relationship that you can develop with your patients over time was one of the most fascinating things to me about what we do.
That's awesome. Thanks, Melissa. Tony, top that one.
No, can't top that one. So mine's a little different, but I knew I wanted to get in a field where I could help people. I also come from a family of entrepreneurs and business owners, so kind of wanted to do something in business eventually as well. And anyway, I had a friend that was majored in PT and working at a PT clinic, and he was taking biology class with me, and we were just talking about it. He's like, you should go volunteer. And so I volunteered and really enjoyed it. And they offered me a tech position and just loved being able to help people. And I thought, man, you get paid to do this. This is awesome. Because just the feeling of being able to help people and change people's lives.
Very cool. And Melissa, did you say you're from Ohio?
I am from Ohio, from Northeast Ohio. Yeah.
Northeast Ohio. Tony, where are you from?
Florida, Panhandle of Florida.
Okay, nice. And right now you're in Gainesville. So how did the two of you meet?
So I was finishing up PT school at University of Florida. And it was my second clinical internship. It was in January of 2002. And I am sitting in the waiting room of the clinic. And first day of my internship, I'm sitting in the waiting room and I see this guy walking in with this black leather bomber jacket on, like buzzing into the front office because he was running late and was like, "Hey, I'm running late, but I know I've got a student starting today." And I was thinking, oh, I hope he is not my CI. Lo and behold, he was. And so I was his first PT student, full-time intern that January, and had 8 weeks with him as a student. Learned a ton of manual therapy from him. And then after I got back from my last internship was when we started dating. So we met on an internship.
Got it.
And she passed. Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. So you said that was 2002-ish?
2002. Yeah, it was
beginning
when
of
we met.
2002. I remember I graduated in August of 2000. And so I had been out just a little over a year. And they had asked me about taking a student. At the time, I had a lot of stuff going on, didn't really know if I wanted to have a student, and agreed to go ahead and do it, but wasn't quite sure. But anyway, glad I did.
Yeah, that's great. It all worked out. Awesome. And then when did you open up Kinetix?
So we opened Kinetix, actually opened our doors in 2008.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how'd you go through that process? What was the impetus to own your own practice? I know, Tony, you said you have the entrepreneurial family and background. What made you want to do that?
So I think that was probably, more of it. And we discussed it, as we got more serious and dating and Melissa initially wasn't quite sure about it because we were also wanting to have kids. And, one thought was, she's like, well, maybe we should wait till after we have kids. And I'm thinking, oh, well, we may not ever do it if we do that, But anyway, went ahead and took the plunge and did it, and had connections with the Florida Physical Therapy Association and, going to APTA meetings. And so we had, some people we could reach out to, and Mary DeLong was one of those before we even opened. And we met with her and kind of helped set up we met with her in like 2006. Mm-hmm. So we started this process, quite a bit early, and it took longer than anticipated with construction, and then opened in 2000.
And so if you can think back to when you did open, how did you think you were going to change the world, at least in Gainesville, with physical therapy? And then when was your first brush with reality, oh, I own a practice now, I'm my own boss? And when did that reality come crashing down? Do you remember that?
Well, I think I do. We had a really bad run of front desk gals, and the first one we had to get rid of because she kept using our computers and her work time for personal use. And I think my second one was with the next hire we had to fill that front desk role, and it just wasn't a good fit. She was older, was struggling with the technology side of things, and she and I kind of clashed.
She couldn't remember anything. We didn't know that when we hired her on. So she had sticky notes everywhere.
Fair enough.
And so I think when she walked out on me after a conversation I had with her about that problem that I was trying to help her with, I think that's when reality really started setting in for me. And I was like, what are we going to do? We have no one to run the front desk. I can't do it and see patients. And I think that was probably, at least from my experience, one of my first real light bulb moments of we're owners. We've got to deal with this. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I think that's similar to mine. Is just, we do a good job treating patients. That part was easy, but all the other stuff, making sure everything else is running well and making, and we watch the billing and everything closely, but still you want somebody on top of that, doing that. And it's easy for people to get behind on that. And then you got a big problem with cash flow.
Yep.
did that second receptionist, did she remember the next day that she quit the day before?
Yes.
All right. And then also I want to ask about the personal use. Was that like gaming on your company?
No, she was actually using our Adobe software to create like advertising things for other companies that she was trying to do some freelance work with.
Oh,
Yeah,
brutal.
Yeah.
we brought her on, and that was part of the reason we brought her on was to kind of help with some different marketing things, but
Yeah.
we didn't expect her to do like other stuff on our time, so that
Yeah.
was the problem.
Got it. Yeah. So right now, I know one of the things that I shared with you that I noticed is that your group is your culture is amazing of your team members. And it sounds like it wasn't always that way. So somehow you solved that puzzle. What are some of the ways that you thought through, solving the issues at the front desk and getting the right people in there? How do you get the right team members on board for the last 15, 16 years?
Well, I think two key team members are Susan and Katrina. They've been with us when we
15,
opened.
16 years now.
Yeah, so they've both been with us for a long while. And then, therapists, I would say, like we've had people come and go because it's a transient community. So you got people that come to the area, they're here because their spouse is in,
Grad school.
and they may or may not be staying afterwards. So like that's a tough thing. So when we hire people, we try to get a feel of, will they be around for a while? And some that we know that won't be, but like, we accept that. But I think, once you get some people in that is going to be with you for a while, that helps really take ownership, makes a big difference. Like on the clinical side, I think on the front office side, both Katrina and Susan are those key people. On the clinical side, Scott is a key part of that, and helps with that. And then we've got other team members. We've even got a therapist, Carter, that his like kind of subtitle was Captain Camaraderie. So he's in charge of helping to make sure we've got things going on for the clinic, for people to get together, whether it's bowling, whether it's just going out, just to kind of have that outside time outside of the clinic.
Mm-hmm. I think we started using some of our team meeting time very intentionally for team building activities too. And sometimes we just, order in a catered lunch from somewhere and we all just sit around and talk and hang out. Sometimes they're more structured team building activities to get to know each other better on a personal level. Sometimes we're going over different things related to communication or conflict resolution. And I think investing some of our formal meeting time with that has really helped. But I think too, also just investing in developing a relationship with our employees has been very impactful too, because they know that they can come to us about any clinical problem, or if there's something personally that they're struggling with, they know that we're accessible and that we're approachable and that we want to listen and help, if there's a way that we can.
Yeah. And I think on the, going back to the meetings, like when we started, we didn't really have meetings, so just starting to have meetings was a big plus, but then, structuring those meetings, like Melissa said, also adding in some of these other things has been super beneficial and helpful. And then, also I think just the quarterly touch points meetings with our team has been a big plus too. And we see that if we get behind on that, like things start creeping up. So you got to like really stay on top of it. And then, yeah, like Melissa said, we try to just have that personal touch as well. Like Melissa will go to lunch with some of the girls. I'll go to lunch with some of the guys and just kind of touch base without really even looking at metrics and stuff, just touching base to make sure things are going well.
Cool. So sounds like a lot of trust building, team building exercises in time in there. What does that look like for, I know, so when did you start adding in the regular meetings with a purpose?
I feel like that was very early on, like within the first couple of years. Like once we had at least a couple of therapists working with us and a front office person, I feel like even then, because I came across, actually, there was a memory that popped up in my Facebook feed recently of when I had my son still in a car seat, and one of our employees was kind of holding him during one of the team meetings, trying to keep him quiet so I could help lead the meeting. So I feel like that was something we started very early on. And it used to be just once a month, I think, but then we slowly adjusted and now we meet on a weekly basis, but with the volume of staff we have, I feel like we need to.
Right. And then, with that too is, I would say probably before we joined Breakthrough, like we were leading the meetings, running the meetings, but like afterwards we've delegated that, and we chime in and pipe in, but we've got other people running the meetings.
Great. So you're doing a once a week meeting. How long does that meeting last right now?
Right now, I would say probably 30 minutes from the time patients can skedaddle out by the lunch hour, and we try to give folks 5 or 10 minutes to get prepped before the next afternoon group comes in. But the first Thursday, we have them on Thursdays at lunchtime. The first Thursday of the month, though, we block an extra hour out. So we actually have from 12 to 2 open. So a lot of times those are the meetings we use to do like a team lunch together. That's also when we have to do certain like compliance training or stuff like that. We use that time. And then if there's other big events we're planning or things that are coming up that we need to really spend some time talking through as a group, then we'll use that first meeting of the month to do that.
Yeah, and touching on the culture part as well, like we do a monthly charity. So like on Fridays, as long as the team has brought in enough money and we match it to meet our goal, then they can dress down in the sense of like jeans and a sports shirt or what have you, but still professional.
Nice. That's great. Love that idea. So let's talk about the team building activities. Love the idea around the charity or nonprofit, supporting the community. What's like the craziest thing you've ever done in a team meeting to build trust? Most memorable.
Yeah. I don't know if we've gone too crazy with that part
Well,
of it.
are you doing like icebreaker questions, or like one time we had a board full of balloons with like prizes in the balloons, and we were throwing darts, and that lasted a very a very short time. But anything crazy like that?
I feel like we usually do like some activities where the team breaks apart into smaller groups and just kind of gets to
like talk through random questions, like what's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done, or different things like that, just to kind of stimulate some discussion among the staff.
Exactly. We just call that an icebreaker, like an icebreaker breakout. Yep. Love it. And then you talked about that right now you have quite a few team members. How many team members do you have today?
I think we're up to 37 total.
Okay.
Between all the clinics.
This is a significant number of people that you're running this with. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. So the one thing that almost every listener is going to know you for is the reimbursement renegotiations and what you did for private practice PTs. Can you talk through, go back to 2020, what you were looking at with reimbursements? You're in a state that is traditionally known for being on the low end of reimbursements, what you were looking at there, and then how you solved that challenge, how you overcame that, because we all know as soon as we talk with the insurance companies, they tell us no, and then we just go and hide and we're so fed up, and then we try it again and we're told no, and that's the vicious cycle. So what did you do that was different, Tony and Melissa?
Well, first of all, just kind of like looking at, like you said, low reimbursement and looking at what our cost per visit was, continuing to increase, because hiring people was more expensive. Everything was more expensive, right? And continues to be so. And then just kind of looking at our different payers and, the ones that are paying us, less than what it costs us to see the patient. And then, what's the volume of that payer. So things we tried to do previously, because reimbursements continued to go down over time, is add in cash-based services. So laser has been a big plus for us, and we do orthotics. We've got a wellness program. We've also got diagnostics, and that is, you can bill that to insurance, but about half of our current patients, their insurances do not cover it. So it's a cash-based service. But ideally, that is a insurance reimbursed service that you do. But, just looking at all those things, and all those things helped, but we also were like, man, we should get at least what it costs us to see a patient for our core service, and that's PT. And ideally, at least 20% or more, ideally more, because like 20% is like the minimum of where it should be. And so previously we had Katrina reach out, and, we were busy doing different things. COVID kind of like, I was already backing out of treatment. Melissa had already backed out, to be able to do more things with the kids, like early on, I would say. But I was still seeing patients and was gradually trying to wean out of that to be able to work more on the business through breakthrough and all the positive reinforcement there. But then COVID hit, and, that was automatic. My goodness, we got to get, have our therapists that are currently here seeing patients. So that just pulled me totally out of treatment. And just looking across the board, what can we do? And that was one big area that was like, man, this is not good if we keep going down this road. So then I just started reaching out, and like you said, initially was told no, and then just wouldn't accept no, because like then you look at all these other places that get paid a lot more than us, and it's like, not that I want them to get paid what we get paid. I want us to get paid what they get paid, or at least partially what they get paid. You know what I mean? That maybe not all, but like,
and you're talking about facilities in the same neighborhood being reimbursed significantly more for providing the same exact service.
3 to 5 times as much is
Like,
what you see.
Like the hospital-based clinic that literally sits right across the street from one of our locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was, at one of our biggest one was, we'll say it, insurance B, and that one was a significant portion of our patients and our lowest reimburser. So it was about 40% of our patients, and I continued to work that, and finally, after going above the person I was talking to and trying to get some connections there, and then I think that's how that person actually started talking to me, because they got some pressure from above to at least talk to me. So, and we got an increase. It was about roughly a 10% increase, one-time thing. Well, she had been with Insurance B for like 40 years, and then she retires after all this work of like getting this contact. She retires. I'm like, oh, so who do I talk to now? Because I had already asked her about going and doing another increase, and she's like, yes, we can look at that, but she's gone. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. But luckily, the person I got in touch with was actually a higher level up person. So that has been really good. So she was able to get us a multi-year increase. So that was 3 years in a row we got an increase, which that's huge, for that particular payer. And then we've been able to do, increases with other insurance companies too. One in particular has been really hard, and we're just trying to figure out if we're going to go out of network or not with them. But I almost said I was just going to go out of network, because like they gave me at boot camp, they gave me an answer saying, no again. And then anyway, I got a connection with somebody above that. And so I'll keep working that. But luckily, with all the commercial payers that we work with, we've been able to get increases. The insurance B is, 30+% overall, and another one 20%. And this other one, insurance A, not only just 20% of the commercial, but got the Medicare Advantage plans up to the Medicare fee schedule. So that's big also, because a lot of your commercial insurance companies don't pay you the same as Medicare, right? They pay you what their commercial rate is. But anyway, we've been able to make progress there, been able to make progress with the work comp payers, and we continue to push along that line. And we're looking at, other things like you had mentioned. We just brought in Newbie, so we're going to start that. That's a cash-based service. We're looking to start RTM, and that'll help overall increase revenue per visit as well. We looked at that last year and was going to implement it. Actually was in the process of doing so, but we changed EMRs to prompt. So that kind of put a halt on that for, we didn't want to have too much going on. So now we're in prompt, working through that. And we're looking at adding, this as well to kind of help with that.
So let's talk about this big picture. What has that done for your practice, being able to go through, renegotiate, and at least get rates up to where you're not losing money on a patient visit? We'll talk about the cash-based stuff in a second, but what has that meant for you?
Well, I think, it certainly has helped as we've built this new building that we're now in, and
So you've opened a second location, right?
second location. So
Well, it's really our third clinic, I guess.
third clinic. We opened our first one in 2008, and then in 2017 we bought, well before that, but we opened the clinic in 2017. We bought the property beside us, built a new building, and opened that one, and then opened this one in August of this year. Oh no,
2023.
yes, last year. Sorry.
So you have 3 or 2 right now?
3, but 2, but there's 2 that are right next to each other.
There's literally a sidewalk and some landscaping separating them.
Yeah.
So they function as one, but they're technically 2.
Yeah.
You have a really big clinic in 2 buildings.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you've been able to expand, help more people, compensate your team fairly.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Completely.
yeah. It allows us to do, like, we've got structures in place that, therapists can do very well. And if we were not creative with other ways to bring in income, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Mhm.
Very fair. So the cash-based service, I just did an internal training for our therapist here last week, and I used your story and mentioned you to our team because our main office is about the size of your main office, so fairly equivalent. And I think you 12x'd what we did. So what you do in a month in cash-based service is what we did in a year. And I just wanted to share that. But can you talk through with everybody about how the cash-based services you added and the results of what you've done there? Because I think it's super impressive.
So laser is probably our biggest one. And when we first thought of bringing laser on, it was 2017, wasn't it? I believe it was.
I think it's about the time we opened that second clinic.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, man, this is an expensive machine. And that was a 25 watt back then. It wasn't the 40 watt. But we talked to practice owners there that had been having success, and that really helped us to, like, anything that we bring on, we want it to benefit our patients. And then the cash based is a plus. We've kind of gotten to the point where you almost have to figure out some ways to bring on cash based services because of reimbursement and those kind of things. But the combination of, yes, it really works. There's research to back it up. They're getting results. And, it's helping, bring additional income into the clinic. So we decided to do it, and, it was a big investment. So we definitely committed to it, got our team on board. And now we have 3 40 watt machines, 2 of them at the main clinic, and then 1 here at this one. And we do really well. Like we did about 240 or so thousand last year, and we're on track for way more than 300,000. And it'll be quite a bit more than that.
And that's in laser alone.
That's just laser, and then if you add in, we do wellness. It's not a big money maker for us. I feel like there's some things we can do to beef that up, but
I feel like that's more so like a patient retention type thing.
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep discharged patients close by. So that way, if they do develop other issues, they start right back into PT.
Yeah. And we're hoping that the newbie is something too, like they use it for sports performance. They use it for other things as well. And we're hoping that, that'll help increase some cash flow on that side, but, on the PT side as well.
Yeah. Great.
So I'll add to in regards to like the cash-based services, that is something that we have to constantly bring or keep, maybe I should say, at the awareness in the forefront of our therapist minds, and even the patient care coordinators at the front desk. Like, we talk about it probably almost every team meeting, reminding people about that, having a team member share a success story about, how that laser treatment, when they started it with the patient, how it affected their projection in rehab, and how their results in rehab changed. And then we also help remind them about their metrics too. That's one of the metrics that the therapists report on. Or actually, we have one of our kind of like our lead tech keep metrics on the laser packages that we sell and who does it. And that, I think, has also helped to kind of keep it kind of at the top of the mind for the clinician, so that they remember to talk about it frequently with their patients and make sure they do their free trials and kind of keep that ball rolling.
And I think the main thing there is we want to do what's best for our patients. And we have all these tools to be able to help our patients, including diagnostics, and if we're not maximizing that because you have a self-limiting belief because they can't afford it, then that's a problem, so like, don't think that way. Just prescribe it, recommend it, follow up on it. They can decide, on what to do there, but at least we're not depriving them of that opportunity.
Yeah, great. The aid, Melissa, I wanted to ask you about that, or the tech who's reporting on the metrics. They're sharing number of packages sold, number of visits. How are they talking about that in the weekly meeting?
So generally, I think what he does is he emails that information out to our management team. So that way we can see like the big picture scope of by therapist, who's, sold so many of each package, who has sold so many upgrades from like a 6-pack to a 10-pack. But then the therapists are the ones at the team meeting that present their own metrics for the past month to the rest of the team on how many packages they sold or how many upgrades they had.
And he sends that information to everybody. So
Oh.
all the therapists get to see everybody so they can compare. And I had a therapist, I don't know, a couple of days ago, maybe. She's a newer therapist, but I was asking her how things were going, and she's like, I'm number one this whatever on laser, that's what I'm striving to, not what I'm striving, but like that it helped to kind of give her a baseline of, hey, this is how some people are doing, because it ranges, some people are way down here and some people are way up here. So we want everybody to kind of be here, but it is a range.
Yeah, got it. And just for all of the listeners, Tony was doing some very impressive hand motions to demonstrate the bell curve of higher performers, low performers, and then a range in the middle. Yes. Great. The other thing that I'm really interested in talking about is your husband and wife. You're operating in the practice. You're both always extremely cheerful and joyous and happy and, amazingly willing to share. So I thank you for that. How do you do it? Because I've seen this go wrong so many times.
Know. I was thinking earlier today, like I knew this podcast was this afternoon, and I got back to thinking of like when we first started the clinic in 2008, and literally like the first, I don't know, probably 5-6 years we were in practice. We opened the clinic in 2008. We had our first child, our son, in July of 2009. That's about the time Tony decided, oh, I want to go to UF and get my master's in entrepreneurship. So I'm like, okay, let's, he was like, we could do it together. Like, I'll sign up for it and I'll go to the classes, but we can both read the books and we can both work on the projects. And I was like, I'll be taking care of our child and the clinic. Go ahead and go to school.
Yeah, that didn't work out quite like I had planned, but it still worked out pretty good.
Yeah. And then about the time he graduated from that program was...
Were you also finishing up your transitional DPT?
Yeah, and I was finishing my transitional DPT when I was still pregnant. And then he finished that master's in entrepreneurship in the summer of 2011. We had our daughter in October of that year. And during that time, my parents were still in Ohio, and my mom was declining very rapidly with Parkinson's. And I was making trips every month or two, tagging along both of our kids in tow. Tony was at the clinic working and traveling back and forth. And she passed away in 2013, which kind of sent me into a tailspin. And so those first 5 or 6 years, I don't know how we made it through. I think we just kept putting one foot in front of the other each day. And we knew we had each other's backs, and we knew we had that underlying like commitment and that trust that we would just work through it, whatever life handed us. And that and lots of prayers. I think that's how we did it. And I would say it's gotten easier over time as far as how we handle it. But I think that's because of how our relationship has grown and how we've learned to communicate with each other. We've learned what really tends to like push each other's buttons. We know to kind of stay away from that. We know the best time of day or time to approach a subject. Tony's learned not to come home and start a lot of conversation after 8 or 9 o'clock at night when my brain's like shutting down from mom mode and he's like ramping up. Well, we got this and this and this. And I'm like, not right now. And so I think we still definitely have had a lot of big challenges and that's not changed. But I think the way we've been able to approach them and talk through them and come to resolution on things, I think we've developed a lot of maturity and trust and, respect for each other's differences and kind of pulling on each other's strengths rather than getting frustrated by our differences, I think has definitely made a big impact.
Yeah, and I feel like we do compromise, like Melissa compromises and I compromises, and we kind of try to meet somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Is that like you make sacrifices for each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say like I'm more of a risk taker, and how would you describe like more of a risk averse?
I've gotten better. I've become more risk tolerant in our 19 years of marriage. But it's still not something that comes easy for me. But I think Tony has definitely helped me to learn to see the big picture and to be a little more vision oriented because I'm very analytical. I'm very detail oriented. And so he's been able to help grow those qualities in me that have I think he's always had naturally. And it's been interesting because like our practice administrator now that's over the front office and billing and HR and compliance, like she was very much like me in personality and how she thinks and how her brain processes things. And so I had to kind of go through that own transformation myself with Tony's help. And I was able to kind of take her through the same thing. And she's been with us almost 16 years now, and talk about a night and day difference in her mindset and how she can look at the big picture and how she sees, big company-wide things versus just focusing on a small problem. And so I think that's something that's helped our team is us now being able to kind of coach others through that process and that kind of transformation in how they think.
Very cool. Super impressive. And I just wanted to tell you, but I can't tell you how much when you meet somebody and they're always smiling and willing to share, I'm always like slightly skeptical. You both have like withstood the test of time. I think it's amazing what you've done with your team building, your willingness to share with other practice owners. One of my favorite things of all time was at this last event, Tony and I were together in Orlando, and I heard 2 different people say something to you, Tony. I think John Stevens was one about he went and renegotiated with an insurance company and got a significant bump. And I think Ken was there as well and shared that with you. So you're sharing, you're helping other owners, and very much appreciate what you're doing for private practice. It's awesome.
Well, thank you too for helping to share it. And yeah, I think it takes us all to there's bigger things that need to be done, but that's on a different level, but we can all take steps, for our own practices. That helps all of us.
Yeah. One more question for you. During your private practice journey, what's the most, this can be professional or personal, most influential book you've ever read? I'm expecting 2 different answers here.
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Nice. Dale Carnegie. Awesome.
I think mine was The Coaching Habit.
Very cool. Do you use that? Do you use the 7 questions?
All the time. And that's what I've taught our management team. I bring that book up all the time. I literally read it. So I read that book actually on a flight from Florida to Anaheim for one of the breakthrough conferences several years ago. And that's when I read that book. And I refer back to it so much, and not just in our clinic and professionally, but also in like personal and parenting and family situations too. There's just a lot of good stuff in that book.
Yeah, very cool. Very much like that one. But I literally have a pile of like 5 books, and both of those books are in there. Like I can see the Dale Carnegie book laying on top, right over my camera. So very cool. One more question for you. So I lied to you. I told you that was the last question. We have one more. So during you've given a ton to the breakthrough community, and I am eternally grateful for that. Is there one or two big takeaways from breakthrough that has helped you the most within your private practice? Something that you were struggling with, a puzzle that you were trying to solve, a challenge that you were trying to overcome, and you either got it from another owner or, something from breakthrough, just out of curiosity.
I think Melissa had already done this, but for me, being able to step out of all the day-to-day, like seeing patients, and then also having permission, because like you initially feel guilty, like you should be there seeing these patients. But when you realize you have a bigger impact if you do step away, to be able to help your team grow. Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest things, because that's a big thing that breakthrough helps to promote, is being able to pull back so you can work on and improve everybody. And when you're stuck in the business, that's what you're doing. Your time is spent there. So I would say that's one of the biggest things.
Anything?
Mine's probably similar to that. And I think most of this came from the original Breakthrough University, like admin and owner courses that you used to do, where you talked about having to like take things off your plate in order to have some free time and an open hand to be able to take on new and different responsibilities. And I definitely had a hard time giving up some things and giving up control of some things. But then I realized it was very kind of liberating, I guess, to realize that I didn't have to be there for everything, and being able to really help to coach and mentor other people to do my job. And that's really, I think, what it's come down to for me, is really working on my mentoring and coaching, using a lot of the things that I've learned through Breakthrough and some of the online courses and conferences that we've gone to be able to help to develop and empower other team members so that I could do, really at that point, whatever I want to do rather than what I have to do.
Yeah, and I think also the impact and things you can do in your community is big. Like we've gotten different awards, but one Melissa got fairly recently was a Fierce Award, and it honors like influential women in the community. So she was one of those people, and it's based on like all the things that she does in the community.
Very cool. What was that called? The Fierce?
The Fierce Award. Yep.
Is that an acronym for something?
No, it's just Fierce. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right.
But they look to honor women in leadership really across all sectors, from like, for-profit companies, nonprofits, a big range of things. So yeah, it was really cool to be able to be honored for that last year.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And then we got Best Places to Work last year too. So that was good. I mean, like, because they'll come in and survey your team, and you get some of that feedback too. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So if any of our listeners want to learn more about you or Kinetix PT, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can contact my secretary. We both have our email addresses on our clinic website, so kinetixpt.com. Tony's is tonyc@kinetixpt.com. Mine's just my first name, Melissa, @kinetixpt.com. And they can shoot us an email or reach out through the contact us form on our webpage.
Cool. And just for everybody that's listening and not viewing, Kinetix is Kinetix.
You got it.
Great. So Tony and Melissa Cere, Kinetix PT, thank you so much for being here and being on the podcast.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.